Today we'll be looking at my new Schmincke pans. What up friends, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another video. As I mentioned, today we'll be looking at my new, you can see them here, my new Schmincke pans. Now, I'm really excited about these for several reasons. First off, these are just Schmincke, so I'm really excited to test them out. It's the first time I'm using their pans. And even more than that, I think it's the first time I'm using pans ever since I used the very basic Van Gogh watercolor, which came in pans. So this is like, maybe aside from the Sennelier set that I bought, Le Petit Aquarelle. So these are the first like good pans I'm using. So I'm really excited about these. And also these are all new colors. And so some of these I'm very curious about and I want to try out. Some of you asked me about the empty spots on my palette. So this is exactly what I'll use these for most likely. At least one or two of them is going to end up in my palette. Okay, so I have currently 9. Let me change the angle and show you all of them. Okay, so let's open these up, and don't worry, later on I'll add to the swatches all of the information you will need to know about these. So you will have like the information, is it transparent or not, or the light fastness and everything. So let's get started. Here I have the Cerulean Blue Hue. So this is the first one I'm gonna open up, and it's really been so long since I used like pans. So generally I just miss it. So here it is. I'm just going to place them over here. We have next the English Venetian Red. So let's take a look here. It's just really interesting to see what they look like inside the pans. Basically, I read somewhere that the pans are a good representation of how dark a color can get, because it's basically the color layered over and over and over again. Next up is the Magenta. I've been using this one quite a bit recently, so I'm really familiar with this one. It could be interesting to see how this one feels compared to the tubes, because this is what I've been using so far. Next up we have the May Green, and this one I'm really curious about because I'm not that big on greens. I don't use many greens. I like to mix my own because otherwise it just feels really flat and boring to me sometimes. So could be interesting to see what this one looks like. You see a really bright one. I think this is the type of green that will be really hard to produce naturally depending on your primaries. So I do think there's some value in having one like this. Next up we have the Caput Mortuum, which they call Indian Red. So if you heard that scary name, Caput Mortuum, you know it's this one. So I guess it'll be kind of a burnt dark red. So let's take a look at this. Oh, it's much lighter than I expected actually. So it's interesting to see what that'll end up looking like. Here we have the neutral tint, which funny enough looks a little different from the rest of the pans, just design-wise. So maybe they just changed their design, and this is from a previous series or something like this. It's the first time I'm using neutral tint, and I see a lot of my favorite artists using them. So it's really interesting to see what I feel towards this one. Next up we have the lemon yellow. So let's take a look at this. I'm not too big on cool colors as well, so it's interesting to see what I'll think about this one, because I do like yellows and yellows are warm. This was a cool one, I guess, so it's just interesting to see. Next up we have the Indian yellow, so kind of similar to the yellows I like. I have also Turner's yellow, which is quite similar to this one, and New Gamboge, which also on first glance looks a little similar, so we'll have to see. And finally we have the permanent olive green. I basically ordered them by my personal interest because this one doesn't interest me that much. I've been using it. I actually started using it a little more recently. I have it in the tubes. So I started using it a little more recently just because it's a nice yellow to combine with the primaries. So anyway, these are all of the colors. And I'm gonna just set up a few things and we'll start swatching them and taking a look at them. Okay, so I don't have my metal palette with me, so I'm using an improvised palette. I hope you like it. And let me just go over some of the things I wrote down here. So basically I made a swatch for each of the colors, but also I added their information. So the number you see on the left is the series, okay, so series 1, series 3, etc. The 4 out of 5, that's the light fastness. Okay, so basically anything above 3 is good. Most of these are 4 and a few are 3, as you'll see soon. About the square represents how transparent or opaque that is. So this one stands for transparent, half a square will be semi-transparent, and this one will be opaque. Okay, and for the triangle, it represents how staining it is. Okay, so this one is semi-staining, this one is staining, and just a clear triangle will be non-staining. Okay, so now that we are aware of these things, let's just start swatching these out and take a look at what they look like. So we'll start with the Cerulean Blue, and I'm really excited because I haven't used pens for a long time now. So just this moment makes me really excited. And I don't even, ooh, it's beautiful. I don't even need a mixing space. I'm just going to kind of take them straight out of the pen and show them in their full glow, okay? So I have to say, I'm immediately a fan of this one, specifically the Cerulean Blue. It's so bright and strong. This one I'm sure I'll use, just add to my repertoire. Really beautiful. So next up we have the English Venetian Red. So let's give this one a try. Oh, this one is really beautiful. It actually reminds me of their burnt sienna. The only difference is that it does have a little more red in it. A little less brown, a little more red. I'm not gonna go into the pigments or stuff like this with this video. I think we can do that in the future in the paint show or in any other format, but for now let's just keep it simple. But this one is beautiful too. We're off to a good start. So the magenta I'm really familiar with, nothing too new here. Really used to using it, and this one feels really similar to the one that came in a tube. And I have to say the tubes themselves, the tube paint re-wets so easily, and these ones also have that very same characteristic. So I'm really excited about these ones. I was expecting them to re-wet easily, even in the pens, but now I get a proof that it is the case. So it just makes me even happier. So next up we have the May green, and I never used a green that even closely resembles or even slightly resembles this one, I believe. Very bright. Let's try picking up a little more paint. Look at this. This is beautiful. I think this one is similar to what's used to be called or still called Hooker's green. I'm not sure because it does look very similar to me, at least in first glance, but I never used it, so I don't really know. So next up we have the Indian Red, Caput Mortuum. The scariest, I believe, color name ever. Yeah. Okay, this is really interesting. I find that I really love the Indian colors, the Indian yellow, this Indian red. I like how they're a little darker. Yeah, I was just staring at the color, just beautiful. All of these I like. The question is which ones of these will actually be useful for me. So I'll probably not start by using all of them together. I'll probably add like 2 or something like this, and then check them out and see what I feel towards them. So neutral tint, really exciting. First time ever. So this one looks a little warm. I'm actually pretty sure it's warm. I'm gonna clean out the brush a little more just to make sure it's not leftovers from the Caput Mortuum or something like this. This one looks a little warmer, the neutral tint. I'm not sure if that's how neutral tints are or if this one is in particular. I like it, I think. I'll have to just play around with it as a part of a full painting to really understand what it's like. So let's move this a bit, and now we have the final 3. So we'll start with lemon yellow. And as I go along, you can of course take a look at the stats of these colors and take note of them if you're interested in something in particular. So yeah. Yellows are known for, some of them are known for their light fastness issues. So this one is, yeah, it seems like it's 3 out of 5, the neutral tint as well. I'm not sure what the implications are, because usually the neutral tint I know is mixed with other colors, so, but I could be mistaken. By the way, as a note here, all of these, as far as I know, are non-granulating, even though the Indian Red does look like it creates some kind of a texture. But I'm not sure if it's just the paper showing or not. From what I saw, they aren't supposed to be granulating. Correct me if I'm mistaken, I'll check that later on. So anyway, now for the Indian Yellow, which is really orangey, I have to say. I wasn't sure what it's gonna be like exactly, but yeah, this one I like a lot. These are some of my favorites, the warm kind of reds and yellows and oranges. So yeah, and finally the permanent green olive, which I believe is identical to the one I've been using so far. Just a good kind of basic green to mix together with others in order to create some interest. I don't think it will look good if you just use this one. So anyway, let me zoom out a bit and show you all of the swatches together. So here we have all of them. I have to say the Cerulean Blue is my favorite right now. I'm really looking forward to using it. It could be interesting to try out these 3 just as a primary kind of set. Also maybe with the Lemon Yellow, just to check out the Magenta, Cerulean Blue and Lemon Yellow, and the Magenta, Cerulean Blue and Indian Yellow. I may make a video about these as sort of trials and see what they look like. Indian Red really piqued my interest. We'll try it out. May Green as well. Neutral tint, I just don't know. I never used it, so I need to kind of play around with it. English Venetian Red, also beautiful. All of them are beautiful. The permanent green olive is the only one I'm not really a fan of. Also the lemon yellow, but that's just my personal preference. It has nothing to do with these actual paints. It's just regardless. I just don't like that color so much. So yeah, really pleased with these. Let's change the angle and wrap this video up. So friends, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope maybe you will consider trying out these pens. Really pleased with how they work. I haven't used pens, as I mentioned, for a long time, so this was a really good refresher for me actually. And I'll see how I'll incorporate them into my painting routine, like into, maybe some of these will turn out to be very popular or very popular colors just for me to use, because I'm kind of still learning in what ways I want to use different colors, and this is something that really keeps on changing as I discover new ones. So anyway, this is it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel here. Also follow me on Snapchat and Instagram for more daily updates and just works in progress and all sorts of interesting things. And I will see you again in the next video.